Gilgo Beach Murders, inside America's most chilling unsolved case. Welcome back to Crime Busters 101, the channel where we uncover the world's most disturbing crimes, mysterious disappearances, and shocking murder cases. Tonight, we travel to the quiet shores of Long Island, New York, a place that hid a terrifying secret beneath the sand. What began as the search for one missing woman soon uncovered a series of human remains scattered along Gilgo Beach, exposing one of the most haunting serial killer investigations in American history. So let's bust some crime together. This is the case of the Gilgo Beach serial killings. The case gained national attention in late 2010 and 2011, when police searching for missing woman Shannon Gilbert discovered the remains of 10 victims along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach and in nearby areas of Suffolk and Nassau counties. For victims, Melissa Barthelemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello were found in December 2010 in close proximity and became known as the Gilgo Four. 6 additional sets of remains were located in March and April 2011, several of which were later connected to earlier unsolved cases. Gilbert's disappearance in May 2010 prompted the initial search, though her cause of death remains disputed and is not conclusively linked to the other victims. Between 2023 and 2024, Rex Heuermann, a Manhattan architectural consultant and resident of Massapequa Park, was charged with 7 of the murders, including those of the Gilgo Four, as well as the killings of Sandra Costilla, Valerie Mack, and Jessica Taylor. In April 2026, Heuermann pleaded guilty to 7 murders and admitted to an 8th, that of Karen Vergata. Rex Andrew Heuermann was born on September 13, 1963, in Massapequa Park, New York, a village on the south shore of Long Island, to Theodore and Dolores Heuermann. Childhood acquaintances of Heuermann recalled him as being a mama's boy who was extremely close to his mother, whom they characterized as controlling. His father, a World War II veteran and former second lieutenant in the United States Air Force, passed away in 1975 when Heuermann was 12 years old. Heuermann purchased his childhood home from his mother in 1994 for $170,000 and continued living in the residence until his arrest in 2023. Neighbors commented on the house's increasingly dilapidated appearance during the intervening years, in comparison to more upscale, surrounding homes. Heuermann is a 1981 graduate from Berner High School in Massapequa Park, where another member of his senior class was actor William Baldwin. He studied architecture at the New York Institute of Technology and, by 1987, was working for an architectural firm in Manhattan. Heuermann married his first wife on September 29, 1990, in New Brunswick, New Jersey. The marriage ended in divorce in 1994. He married his second wife, Asa Ellerup, in April 1996 and lived with her and their 2 children prior to his arrest. Ellerup filed for divorce in 2023. Authorities began to consider Heuermann a suspect in March 2022 after determining that a dark green first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche registered in his name matched a vehicle described by a witness in one of the killings. Investigators stated that Heuermann's cell phone records showed contact with 3 of the 4 victims, and an email account linked to him had been used to search for information about the investigation. Court records also indicated that he had searched online for sadistic materials, child pornography, and images of the victims and their relatives. DNA testing showed a potential match between DNA recovered from a discarded pizza crust and DNA found on hair collected from burlap used to wrap one of the victims. A potential match to Heuermann's wife was also identified when comparing hair found on or near 3 victims to samples taken from bottles recovered from the trash outside the Heuermann residence. Investigators stated that Heuermann's wife and children were out of state during each of the periods when the killings are believed to have occurred. On July 13, 2023, Heuermann was arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of second-degree murder in connection with the deaths of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. On June 6, 2024, Heuermann was arraigned and charged with the murders of Jessica Taylor and Sandra Costilla. Costilla's murder had not previously been linked to the Gilgo Beach serial killings. This development extended the timeline of the case back to the early 1990s, much earlier than previously believed by investigators. In January 2024, Heuermann was charged with the murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 25, who disappeared in 2007. On April 8, 2026, Heuermann pleaded guilty to the 7 murders with which he had been charged and admitted to committing an 8th murder. His sentencing is scheduled for June 17, 2026. Sandra Costilla was a 28-year-old woman from Trinidad and Tobago who was killed on November 19th or 20th in 1993. In December 2024, 31 years after her death, Heuermann was charged with her murder. DNA from hairs found on her body matched Heuermann's. Costilla was living in New York City at the time of her disappearance. Her body was discovered in November 1993 by hunters in a wooded area in North Sea, Long Island, approximately 60 miles, 97 kilometers, northeast of Gilgo Beach. She is the earliest known victim included in the murder charges against Heuermann, suggesting that he allegedly began killing in the 1990s or earlier, and that he disposed of bodies in locations beyond the Gilgo Beach area. The Gilgo 4 victims discovered in December 2010. Maureen Brainerd Barnes of Norwich, Connecticut, was 25 when she disappeared. She was last seen on July 9, 2007, saying she planned to spend the day in New York City. She was not seen again. Brainerd Barnes worked as a seasonal telemarketer and turned to sex work when unable to find other employment. A mother of 2, she advertised as a sex worker on Craigslist to pay her mortgage. She had been out of the sex industry for 7 months, but returned after receiving an eviction notice. Her body was found in December 2010. She had been restrained with 3 leather belts, and DNA found on one of the belts matched the wife of Heuermann. Shortly after her disappearance, her friend Sarah Carnes received a call from a man using a blocked number. He claimed he had seen Brainerd Barnes and that she was alive and staying at a whorehouse in Queens. He refused to identify himself or provide the location. Carnes asked him to call back from an identifiable number so police could act on the information. He said he would, but never called again. Carnes reported that the man had no discernible regional accent. At the time she disappeared, Brainerd Barnes was working from a Super 8 motel in Manhattan. On the night of July 9, 2007, she called a friend in Connecticut and said she planned to meet a client outside the motel. Like many of the victims, she was very petite, at 4 feet 11 inches, 1.50 meters, and 105 pounds, 48 kilograms. Melissa Barthelemy, 24, of Erie County, New York, went missing on July 12, 2009. She had been living in the Bronx and working as a sex worker through Craigslist. She was known to use the alias Chloe. On the night she disappeared, she met with a client, deposited $900 in her bank account, and attempted to call an ex-boyfriend but did not reach him. Beginning 1 week later and continuing for 5 weeks, her 15-year-old sister received a series of vulgar, mocking, and insulting calls from a man, possibly the killer, using Barthelemy's phone. The caller asked whether the girl was a whore like her sister. The calls escalated and culminated in the caller telling her sister that Barthelemy was dead and that he was going to watch her rot. Police traced some calls to Madison Square Garden, Midtown Manhattan, and Massapequa, but were unable to identify the caller. Barthelemy's mother noted that there were a lot of calls to Manorville from her daughter's phone around the time she disappeared. Barthelemy was 4 feet 10 inches and 95 pounds, 43 kilograms. Her remains were the first discovered during the search for Shannon Gilbert. Megan Waterman, 22, of Scarborough, Maine, went missing on June 6, 2010, after posting escort advertisements on Craigslist. The previous day, she told her boyfriend she was going out and would call him later. At the time, she was staying at a motel in Hauppauge, New York, 15 miles, 24 kilometers, northeast of Gilgo Beach. Waterman was reported missing on June 8, 2010, after failing to check in on her 3-year-old daughter, whom she had left with family. Her body was recovered in December 2010. Waterman was a victim of sex trafficking. Her boyfriend was arrested on sex trafficking charges on April 11, 2012. He is not believed to be connected to her disappearance or death. Amber Lynn Costello, 27, of West Babylon, New York, went missing on September 2, 2010, after leaving to meet a stranger who had called her several times and offered $2,500 for her services. Before moving to West Babylon, Costello lived with her second husband in Clearwater, Florida, and worked as a waitress. She had been a strong student, but became addicted to drugs as a teenager. She had been sexually assaulted by a neighbor at age 6. Costello was 4 feet 11 inches, 1.50 meters, and weighed approximately 100 pounds, 45 kilograms. Her family believed she was in a residential drug rehabilitation center at the time she went missing. They did not immediately report her missing when she stopped responding to messages and calls. Costello's roommate provided police with a description of the unknown client and the first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche he was driving. More than a decade later, this information helped lead investigators to Heuermann as a suspect. Born in Charlotte and raised in Wilmington, North Carolina, Costello was living in West Babylon with several other heroin users when she disappeared. Bitrolf lived in Manaville, where the torsos of Gilgo Beach victims Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack were recovered. The adult daughter of Rita Tangredi was also the best friend of Melissa Barthelemy, one of the Gilgo Beach victims. On January 16, 2020, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart released images of a belt found at the crime scene with the letters HM or WH, depending on the orientation of the belt, embossed in black leather. The belt had been found during the initial investigation near Ocean Parkway in Gilgo Beach. Police believed that the belt was handled by the perpetrator and that it had not belonged to any of the victims. The police revealed few details about the belt's evidentiary value and would not comment on exactly where it had been found. It was also announced that new scientific evidence was being used in the investigation and that they had launched a website enabling the department to share news and receive tips regarding the investigation. However, the website has since been taken down. Timeline: 1993. November 19, 1993. Sandra Costilla last seen. New York City, New York. November 20th, 1993. Remains of Sandra Costilla found. North Sea, New York. 1996. February 14th, 1996. Karen Vergata last seen. April 20th, 1996. Partial and then unidentified remains of Karen Vergata found. Fire Island, New York. 1997. June 28th, 1997. Partial and then unidentified remains of Tanya Jackson found. Hempstead Lake State Park, Lakeview, New York. 2000. 2000. Valerie Mack last seen by family members in spring or summer. Port Republic, New Jersey. November 19th, 2000. Partial and then unidentified remains of Valerie Mack found. Manaville, New York. 2003. July 21st, 2003. Jessica Taylor last seen. Port Authority Bus Terminal, Manhattan, New York. July 26th, 2003. Partial remains of Jessica Taylor found. Manaville, New York. 2007. July 9th, 2007. Maureen Brainerd Barnes last seen Manhattan, New York. July 2007. A friend of Brainerd Barnes, Sarah Carnes, receives a phone call from a man claiming that he had just seen Brainerd Barnes and that she was alive and staying at a whorehouse in Queens. 2009. July 12, 2009. Melissa Barthelemy last seen. Unionport, Castle Hill, Bronx, New York. July 17, 2009. August 26, 2009. Amanda Barthelemy, sister of Melissa Barthelemy, receives a series of vulgar, mocking, and insulting calls from a man using Melissa Barthelemy's cell phone. There are additional calls on July 23rd, August 5th, August 19th, and 26th. The caller eventually tells Amanda Barthelemy that her sister is dead. 2010. May 1st, 2010. Shannon Gilbert makes a panic phone call to 911 after fleeing a client's house. She bangs on the doors of several neighboring houses and disappears. Oak Beach, New York. June 6th, 2010. Megan Waterman last seen. Hauppauge, New York. September 2nd, 2010. Amber Lynn Costello last seen. West Babylon, New York. December 11th, 2010. Remains of Melissa Barthelemy found. Ocean Parkway, Long Island, New York. December 13th, 2010. Remains of Megan Waterman, Amber Lynn Costello, and Maureen Brainerd. Barnes found, Ocean Parkway, Long Island, New York. 2011. March 29, 2011. Further partial remains of Jessica Taylor found, Ocean Parkway, Long Island, New York. April 4, 2011. Remains of Valerie Mack, Asian Doe, and Tatiana Dykes found in Brush area, Ocean Parkway, Long Island, New York. April 11, 2011. Further partial remains of Tanya Jackson found, Jones Beach State Park, Nassau County, New York. April 11, 2011. Further partial remains of Karen Vergata found, Tobay Beach, Nassau County, New York. September 20th, 2011. Baby Doe, later identified as Tatiana Dykes, identified as the daughter of Peaches, later identified as Tanya Jackson. Partial remains found in 1996 and on April 11th matched to the same person, later identified as Karen Vergata. Partial remains found in 2000 and on April 4th matched to the same person, later identified as Valerie Mack. A composite image of the unidentified Asian Doe released. December 13th, 2011. Remains of Shannon Gilbert found in a marsh, Oak Beach, New York. 2012. May 4th, 2012. Shannon Gilbert's death ruled an accidental drowning by Suffolk County Medical Examiner. 2016. December 13th, 2016. Peaches and Jane Doe No. 3, positively identified as the same person, later identified as Tanya Jackson. 2020. May 6, 2020. Suffolk County ordered by New York State Supreme Court to release the recording of Shannon Gilbert's 9/11 call. May 28, 2020. Police announce forensic identification of formerly unidentified remains of Valerie Mack. 2022. 2022. Remains first found in 1996 identified as Karen Vergata. May 23, 2022. Recording of Shannon Gilbert's 911 call released. 2023. July 14, 2023. Rex Heuermann charged in relation to the murders of Megan Waterman, Melissa Barthelemy, and Amber Costello, and named as a suspect in the murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. August 4, 2023. Police publicly announce forensic identification of formerly unidentified remains of Karen Vergata. 2024. January 16, 2024. Heuermann indicted for the murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. June 6, 2024. Heuermann indicted for the murders of Jessica Taylor and Sandra Costilla. September 16, 2024. Updated forensic sketches of Asian Doe released, this time both male and female presenting versions. December 17, 2024. Heuermann charged in relation to the murder of Valerie Mack. 2025. April 23, 2025. Police publicly announce forensic identification of formerly unidentified remains of Tanya Jackson and Tatiana Dykes. December 5, 2025. Andrew Dykes charged in relation to the murders of Tanya Jackson and their daughter Tatiana Dykes. 2026. April 8, 2026. Heuermann pleads guilty to the 7 murders he was charged with. He also admits to the murder of Karen Vergata, for which he was not previously charged.